Hi, my name is Carly Hurvitz, and today I'll be talking about the 3 Mile Island accident that happened in Middletown, Pennsylvania. The purpose of this presentation is to inform you and any other watchers of the events that took place at the 3 Mile Island reactor and the enduring and lasting impacts of the event. A quick table of contents for the presentation. I'll go over the overview events. I'll look at a site map of the 3 Mile Island reactor, show you the timeline of events that occurred, and then I'll take you through some graphs that explain more data from what happened. An overview of the accident. The 3 Mile Island accident occurred on March 28, 1979 at the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant, which is located near Middletown, Pennsylvania. It's considered one of the most significant nuclear accidents in the history of the United States and created a lot of lasting change in the world of environmental health. The accident started when a series of malfunctions and equipment failures led to a partial meltdown in the Unit 2 reactor, which I'll show you at the site map. Um, the primary cause of this melting was a failure in the cooling system, which resulted in a loss of coolant and a rise in temperature inside the reactor's core. As the temperature inside the core increased, a pressure relief valve malfunction, which led to the release of radioactive gases and radioactive coolant into the containment building. However, there was no significant breach of the containment vessel, preventing a more extensive release of radioactive materials into the environment. So there wasn't a huge impact on overall human health. However, there was time following the event that radioactive materials were still leaking out of their containment building. Next. So here's a map of the 3 Mile Island reactor. As you can see, there are two units in this reactor, Unit 1 and Unit 2, and they're located in Pennsylvania on the Susquehanna River. This, as you can see in this side, the reactor 2 is the reactor that started partially melting down, causing the leak of radioactive materials into the environment. So a timeline of events that occurred um, at the reactor. So on March 28, 1979, at 4 a.m., a cooling malfunction occurs in the Unit 2 reactor at the power plant. At 6:22 a.m., the operators at the power plant initiated an emergency shutdown of the reactor after observing the abnormal coolant system behaviors. And then right after that, at 6:53 a.m., a pressure relief valve failed to close, leading to the loss of coolant and to the start of the core meltdown. Now, on March 29th, 1979, also at 4 a.m., the cooling water circulation was partially restored back into the reactor. And then at 8 p.m., after they realized that the radioactive materials were leaking out of the containment building, the evacuation of pregnant women and young children from the area surrounding the plant was recommended. Now, March 30th, 1979, at 6 a.m., there was an evacuation order that was expanded to include everyone within a 5 mile radius of the plant. On March 31st, 1979, President Jimmy Carter visited the site to see what the actual impact was. And then on April 1st, 1979, the governor of Pennsylvania advised voluntary evacuation within a 10-mile radius of the power plant. April 9th, 1979, the release of radioactive gases from the containment building stopped to leak. And then finally, on April 26th, 1979, the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission assigned the incident as a rating of 5 on the International Nuclear Events Scale, which indicated an accident with very wide consequences. The first graph I'm going to take you through is looking at the reactor water levels over time. So as you can see on the graph, the reactor water levels stayed at a normal level until about 100 minutes after the original coolant system failed. This caused, at that time, the water levels in the um, core to drop significantly for about 30 minutes. And then you can see there it plateaued and started to rise again about 2 hours after the incident occurred. And from there, it restored fully back to their original water level 280 minutes after the original failure of the system. The second graph I'll take you through is looking at the amounts of radioactive materials that were released from the containment building. So as far as noble gases such as xenon and krypton, that was where you saw the most released, where there was 20 million curies released from the building. Coming in next, there was iodine 131, which was the second most prevalent um, material release with 13 million curies. And then you can see cesium 137 released a little bit with 80,000 curies. There was also trace amounts of other radioactive isotopes that were released, but nothing that was made an impact. Next, we'll look at the number of exposures versus deaths. So overall, it was estimated that there were 20 million individuals exposed to the radioactive materials that leaked from the building. However, it was only estimated that 333 people died from impacts of that event. And then here are my resources. Thank you.